Today, we are going to cross the Atlantic to the Ukraine, where one man has assembled a team of teachers to change the face of education.
Oleksandr Elkin started up edcamp, where teachers look way beyond the classroom to improve the lives and the skill set of their students. Today, he speaks to us from a war zone in Kyiv.
Oleksandr, welcome to Believe in People. We're so thrilled that you're here.
Thanks for inviting me and for having an opportunity to share the Believe in People platform.
Absolutely. Oleksandr, you're the inspirer and chair of the board of edcamp. Could you share with our viewers and listeners what edcamp is all about?
EdCamp is both a simple yet very powerful idea, which originally was born in the States over 10 years ago and created by a very narrow circle of school educators who were tackling the issue of ineffective teachers' professional development systems, mostly supported by governments. And since then, it became a global movement, and I'm very proud to inspire the Ukrainian family of EdCamp with the mission of uniting Ukrainian educators and supporting them in professional growth. EdCamp was born together with the Revolution of Dignity 7 years ago, and currently you can observe me in the dark as we are struggling from power blackouts. And you can't see the details of the special hoodie I'm dressed in today, as here is the symbol of my native city. We also call it the capital of EdCamp, which is not Kyiv, the Ukrainian capital, where I'm now displaced. It is Kharkiv, the second largest city in our country, situated in the very east, less than 40 kilometers from borders with Russia.
So I was going to ask you, why are you in the dark? So let's just get it right out there. Why are you in the dark?
Because of the war, because of this massive invasion and the new phase, Russian troops started in Ukraine, bombing our infrastructure on the regular basis since October, and the whole country, both the last cities and small settlements, are struggling with not enough electricity. So currently, according to the schedule, we don't have electricity at my home, and I have a candle here on my table, giving me at least some light for you to see me. And though that doesn't stop me, my team, and generally Ukrainians from doing what we can do and bringing the victory on our different frontiers. In our case, on educational one.
And Oleksandr, you've united 40,000 educators in your community, where I understand every 2 schools have an EdCamp educator. How did that come about?
Though that is my favorite story, like in many successful businesses, all started from a very small investment. In my case, it was the investment to Kindle when I bought the How to EdCamp book on Amazon, and I have read the idea of this innovative format, which is mentioned for several years in international ratings of educational innovations, and then decided to risk and bring this idea, unbelievable idea. 7 years ago in Ukraine, nobody believed that educators wouldn't be sharing in a very democratic, participative way with each other and grow together. So all started with the first event. I can remember every of that 324 participants in the middle of 2015 when we conducted our first EdCamp conference. And since then, EdCamp in Ukraine started growing. prior the COVID times, I tend to say this that EdCamp is like a virus. It gives this sense of being part of the community and spreading fast. And currently, as you mentioned, we are a huge family throughout all the country, united both cities and small settlements across all regions.
Are you benefiting? You're doing this to benefit the children. Tell me how the children are doing in Ukraine during this time of upheaval.
Absolutely, you're right. Though we work with adults, we always keep in mind that our primarily goal is to give a better perspective for a joyful, successful future of the generation. As when we invest in one educator, we are actually supporting thousands of their students. And the situation in Ukraine, and particularly in education, is very different because it depends on the region where we are now. There are regions which are occupied. I always emphasize that temporarily occupied. And I believe that all our territories will come back better sooner than later to Ukraine. There are regions that used to be occupied and are currently deoccupied with a lot of loss on different levels, lives, infrastructure, everything. There are territories which were attacked, but who kept being the part of the Ukrainian territory. So it depends a lot on the place we are in. I can share with you some figures. It's quite a fresh statistics from our parliament, head of committee on education and science, that we have in Ukraine. Just imagine 2,800 education institutions damaged and about 350 totally destroyed. And generally in Ukraine, we have 16,000 schools. This is just to feel what is happening with the houses of education. But the most important thing is connected with people. There are a lot of internally displaced people. For instance, my family is an example. I'm a father of two wonderful girls, and the eldest, she's a first grader. So it was her first year in elementary school. A lot of families flee Ukraine for other countries and are staying within other educational systems. You can find in Ukrainian reality all kinds of education. In some places, offline, who are privileged to have this opportunity. In places like Kharkiv, we have online schooling available as the only option, or some schools tend to choose the blended learning approach. There are a lot of challenges and issues, both on soft and hard parts. I can go for many details here, but what I like to say is, maybe you are aware of this possibilist approach of people who believe in progress and that more progress is possible, that Ukraine is receiving a chance to rethink its education in particular, and not only rebuild the past, but try to think about the future and recover for it.
Mm-hmm. And Oleksandr, what was missing from the educational system, in your opinion?
It's a good question. I think we still miss this prioritization. On the government level, generally, not only in Ukraine, I think this is like a global tendency that we need to approach education as a sphere of investment, not the sphere where we just lose our resources. As this is the future, it should be in the priority. And I think it should become among the top spheres right after our victory, investing in human capital. And this is, I think, the most important thing. Of course, buildings are important, textbooks are important, all material things are like technology or internet connection or electricity. Of course, they are all important, but the most important thing and the key are the people who are making the learning experience possible every day.
Mm-hmm.
You talk a lot about sort of an inclusive atmosphere within the schools. You also mentioned the word joy earlier, joy for the children who are learning. Perhaps what you're referring to is you want to make learning fun, but you also want to be inclusive. You want to include the whole family and the whole community in raising the next generation. I'm wondering why you've decided to sort of go that route as opposed to books and buildings.
You know, when we started edcamp and the community began to grow, 2 years later, we were invited to join a very unique group of people who were working on the reform on education. We call it the New Ukrainian School Reform. It's a competence-based reform, which is focused on skills for the 21st century, with the joy among the ideas. We want to come one day. And within this reform, on a very conceptual basis, there is the idea of pedagogy of partnership. Though, of course, a student is in the center of the system, and he or she, so the whole system serves the students, the kids, and the youth. But this is a task not only of educators or school administrators. This is also a task of parents. This is also a responsibility of communities. So it's a common good, a joint effort. And schools in Ukraine are tending more and more to become like an important players in the community life, like community centers. And of course, we need to be aware that when we are receiving our educational experience, we learn not only within school classes, but also in other places, including the family and the community. So everything influences the results. This is why we tend to not only believe, but to praise this pedagogy of partnership approach and to make it happen in education. I can give you just an example, as edcamp is much more than just the format of professional development here in my country. This is like a powerful inspiration for many other initiatives, like the social and emotional program we call CE Learning, social, emotional, and ethical learning program we are implementing in our country since 2019, even before the war. And the key idea of this program is to teach the social and emotional skills, which are also called the soft skills, to students. And this is quite a challenging task. And not only educators are involved in such program, but also parents and school administrators, the whole community.
And Oleksandr, given the fact that you've had to be really adaptive, given the circumstances that you're in, how are you doing that? How are you maintaining your inspiration for yourself? I mean, how are you maintaining that positivity, if you will?
Yeah. Thanks, Sammy, especially for this question. In reformulated, what is the secret of Ukrainian resiliency? We are always discussing that every day a new challenge arrives. Today it is with electricity. Some time ago it was with drones, for instance, in Kiev. And you never know what will be waiting for you tomorrow with this war. And as I mentioned, this possibilist approach, when you see the progress and believe that more progress is possible, I tend to practice gratitude every day in my life, at least twice a day. When I stand up and recollect what brings me up every morning, and in the end of the day, I say thank you. So very basic things. So this is one of the lessons learned from the war, to be grateful for very simple things in your life, for having a chance and staying with your relatives, not being divided, as in many cases, Ukrainian families are unfortunately divided, as women and children, some of them are staying abroad, hopefully temporarily. This is not the case for my family. I'm very grateful for this. Being in a safe place, having electricity time to time. I was struggling for over a month to get connected to the internet, which is not dependent on the electricity. And I'm so happy to enjoy this opportunity the last week, and having a chance to plan at least my work duties and conversations like today's exchange. So many things which we take for granted in our lives, they're actually not. And the war shows how we are all interdependent. It's not the Ukrainian war, like it was not the Chinese virus. It's our planet challenges. We suffer all of them in a way. And I think we need to be united and try to do something together. And I am very thankful for the support we feel from the States, from many other countries of democratic world in these current days. Mm-hmm. So gratitude is my answer.
Gratitude. Are you grateful for the children? What are children teaching you in these horrific times?
They are teaching me that you can continue feeling happiness and joy even when you're going through the hardships of life. Emma, who is a first grader, I mentioned her, she's 6 years old. Every morning she says that she is so happy to go to school, and she's so excited about meeting her class peers every day. Sometimes we wake up with sirens because there is the alarm. It's because of the probability of being bombed. And we don't go to school at these days. And Emma is very frustrated when it happens. when there is no alarm, we go to school. And there is so many pure joy in your experience. And this is a lesson I'm learning from my daughters. Feeling the happiness every day, even in this challenging situation.
Yeah. And Oleksandr, what are you most, for the work that you've done a lot of work with government and EdCamp, what are you most proud of to date?
I'm proud of many things, but the most important one is the Elkin family. So these educators who have this special connection, horizontal ones, across the whole country, from all regions, how this network is supported, we had an opportunity to feel it with our own story of escaping from Kharkiv in the first weeks of the massive invasion phase, how they opened their homes, how they were supporting IDPs, the internally displaced people, how they help in the territorial defense, the army, how they are volunteering. So doing not only their professional duties, but also serving the community and the family and helping each other. Sometimes I think that the whole EdCamp idea was to prepare us for this particular experience. And this is the most thing I'm proud for having this huge family, which is value driven. You know, we have a special initiative. We call it My War The Lessons. This is a campaign, both informational campaign and crowdfunding campaign. The informational part is about sharing the stories of educators, the stories of this, I can say, the heroism of continuing doing what you can in a very sometimes hard circumstances, from occupation, conducting lessons from underground, being displaced with poor connection, but keeping these relations with kids. So we collected all these stories and made them available both in English and Ukrainian to share the reality, but not to, articulate on the hardships, but on the lessons we can learn from this. Because the whole life is actually it consists of the challenges of different ones. And all of them are intended to make us stronger and learn our lessons. So they're sharing the lessons they have learned on personal level, on school level, and even the lessons for humanity. So I will be very happy to share the link to this set of interviews afterwards. So yes, my answer is the family. But if you ask me about the government related stuff, I can say that EdCamp did a lot to work together with the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine and its institutions. For some terms, I have been serving as an advisor of the different ministers. We reformed the whole way how educators grow professionally in Ukraine. Now the whole system is decentralized, debureaucratized, and we brought more integrity to the whole process and gave the right to educators to decide on their side where, in what topics, and with whom they want to become better. And this is a huge change for our country, and I'm very proud of this innovative way of development.
I don't think I've ever had the opportunity to speak someone who is in the dark in a war zone and have such a enlightening conversation in the dark. But every week, Amy and I ask our guest a very simple question. And again, your country has been invaded. You have described the sorts of things that are taking place there. And yet you tell us stories of hope. My question to you is, Oleksandr, why do you still believe in people despite what's going on?
That was the question my mother used to ask a lot of times. How I am continue believing in people when seeing a lot of examples of not good behavior. It will be the third time I will be mentioning this concept of being a possibilist. We tend to stay negative in many ways and not seeing the progress around us. The war teaches me also to see even a small progress of brave and outstanding Ukrainian army when they are bringing back our territory meter by meter, a small progress of our educators who are bringing more and more children back to the Ukrainian educational system independently of the place we're in. And I tend to still, be focused on that progress in what I see around me, in the people from my very narrow circle, and in the people of my nation, and generally globally. I think that what even international politics is demonstrating, like even with intentions to reform UN, for instance, because it's hard to sit in several chairs at once. These are the good tendencies. I also like the words of Edmund Burke, who said that if good people would do nothing, the evil will win. So this is why I still believe in these good people. In our community, we have a symbol. It was a symbol which was born due to our educators, and it symbolizes them. So they call themselves as, in English, there is a phrase, a black sheep. We say it in Ukraine like a white crow. It's because they are in a way different. And sometimes it is hard for them, to be that source of innovation, source of change. It's not the role of majority. So edcampers, they are like a trendsetters. And I think that in every of us, there is a white and black sheep, white and black crow living, good and bad. And I always believe that the good part will win.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Oleksandr, for being on Believe in People. We're grateful.
May I ask
Likewise.
one more thing before we let you go? That is,
Sure.
Do you have any message for the Ukrainian diaspora out there in the world today? You want to give a short message in Ukrainian for anyone who's listening?
I can make it in English first for those who are listening us in this language, and then shift to the Ukrainian. I think that those Ukrainians who are now, due to different reasons, not experiencing this situation in our own country, have also a huge opportunity to look at the way how other nations are organizing their life, including education, to express their gratitude for receiving this support Ukrainians have from a lot of countries and people, to learn from them and to bring this experience back to Ukraine one day, to help our country recover. And as I mentioned, to recover not to the past version of Ukraine, but for the version of the future. Дорогі українці, українки, які нас слухають, особливо ті, які зараз змушені за різними причинами перебувати за кордонами нашої держави, вам теж нелегко. Я це особисто усвідомлюю. Я бажаю вам якнайшвидшого повернення до мирної України. Будьте вдячні тим, хто приймає вас, допомагає на місцях. Вчіться, цінуйте те, що є в Україні, і повертайтеся з цим новим досвідом, щоб ми могли відбудовувати нашу дорогу, рідну державу. Ми всі, я думаю, усвідомили, що незалежність не отримують, її здобувають.
I guess I'm supposed to say Дякую тобі. Is this correct?
Так,
Thank you.
так, я вам теж дякую. Thank you so much. I enjoyed this exchange a lot, and I want to wish luck with the wonderful mission of your podcast series.
Thank
And
you,
we wish you
Oleksandr.
luck.
We really appreciate it.
Luck and hope and peace to your family and your family beyond. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Kevin, Oleksandr I found is an incredibly thoughtful human being, and he looks to the good in very tough situations and really looks for solutions. And I'm really inspired by what he's trying to do within the community, particularly during really, wartime. And he is an inspirer. He really is.
I guess when he talks about EdCamp and the organization, and despite the fact that there's a war going on and his country has been invaded, he still refers to his group, his family, his extended family, as translators. And it's just so clear from meeting this fellow that he's a translator for good. And we hope and pray that he and his family remain safe throughout all this. And of course, the thousands, hundreds of thousands of millions of students who are caught up in this horrible conflict. Mm-hmm. If you want to meet more interesting people like Oleksandr, or you want to explore other parts of the world with Amy and I, please subscribe to our podcast, Believe in People. It's available everywhere, and don't you give up hope either. Thank you.